Hello and welcome back to the Tea and the Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be talking about things Brits are great at. Things the British people are great at.
Well, that was a short podcast.
Wasn't it? No, you don't say that.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. Ha ha ha. Because we're going to do a podcast about things Americans are great at.
They're great at taking over other countries. They're great at
It's all propaganda.
enslaving people.
It's all propaganda. You're all enslaved. No, I mean, I've got a little list here, but, you know, we're just talking about, like, this is going to be an episode which, you know, what has Britain done for the world? I mean, we've done similar sorts of episodes before, but, you know.
Yeah, I think we did, like, what did they invent?
What did they invent?
What have they invented or something
But
like
things
that.
Brits are great at, this is kind of like in general.
In general.
Yeah.
And as I said, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your support.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Be
Be sure to check us out at social media. Tea Butty. That's TABUTTY. So, yeah.
Anyway.
The first one on my list is irony and sarcasm.
Oh, well, there we go. I'm not British, though, am I?
Yeah. But you weren't being sarcastic. You were being truthful. I know you. I've been married to you long enough. I know all about this. No, irony and sarcasm, you know. And it's like, you know, I do agree with this because it seems like when I first moved over here, there was like a lack of, like, getting the sarcasm, you know.
I mean, you always say that. I just do not agree. I don't know.
No, it's like when I'm being, like deadpan humor.
Yeah.
Irony, just kind of like, oh, that's ironic, you know, it's just, and then the sarcastic, you know, because thing is, when I'd be, like, sarcastic, they'd assume I was just being rude. And I'm not, I wasn't being rude, I was just being funny, you know.
Oh, no, I mean...
No, you were being rude.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of were. The thing is I feel like...
Well, that's rude. That's so very rude. Rude.
I feel like British people say rude things and then pass it off as, I'm just kidding.
Say rude things, pass it off as just kidding.
Yeah.
Things Brits are great at.
Yeah, I mean... No, seriously though, I really find that. Oh, you've never heard of sarcasm? It's just
you've never heard of sarcasm?
Yeah, it's just like no, you're just being an a-hole.
You're just being. You're just being
an a-hole,
rude
and going. Oh well, I was just kidding. Haven't you ever heard of sarcasm? You know, and it's just like. No, you can't.
It's just
say
it's
something
kind of like it's
ugly,
and it's
go,
like we were just watching a video.
Yeah.
You know, insults are our love language. Britons,
yeah.
you know, it's like if they're comfortable with you, they will be calling you. They will be insulting you. You know, like oh you know, whatever. Oh, what are you doing here, you old?
Yeah.
So and so, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like you know, over here is kind of like it's unheard of. You know, like, because it's some of the words that are used, you know, it's like...
Well, yes, some of the words that are used, you don't hear that often in America now.
Yeah, and it's just like, rude!
Depending on who you're hanging out with. But no, I mean, I don't know, I think we do that to a degree. But I think that a lot of the quote-unquote sarcastic humor that Britain thinks they're so good at is really just being ugly and then going, oh, well, that was my sarcasm. And it's like, no, that's you being a jerk.
It's my
and
sarcastic
privilege.
It was
a joke. Yeah. I don't know. This is very much where we really differ.
Yeah, no, because I've said something or I've been a certain way about something, you know, in a joking manner, you know, like... And, you know, it's like me being negative and rude about it. And I'm just kind of like, no, I'm just having a joke, you know, it's like...
And it's just like,
it's the other...
art is like, but I think that this is another thing like cueing. That British people think they're the only people that do, you know? And it's just like, yeah, sarcasm exists everywhere, you know?
No, it's not the next one, actually, no.
What? Oh, cueing.
Cueing. That was on a list somewhere, but I'm not, this is kind of a list I've made up out of my head, so.
But I don't know, it's one of those things that irritates me because people just really like to pander to British people when they say, "Oh yes, well Britain is great at sarcasm, or we're the best at sarcasm in the world," and it's just like sarcasm exists everywhere. Oh, and they don't,
because
and
it's
the
like,
other countries don't
it's
get us.
it's like
when we're
twister
being...
wordplay, self-deprecation, or deadpan awkwardness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like self-deprecation, unfortunately, over here is confused for like self-pity. Or something like that, and it's just like, yeah, no, we don't act, we're just kind of like, you know, if you give us a compliment, we're gonna like turn it around and say, oh no, I'm not really that great, or it's kind of like modesty, or, you know, or false modesty in a way. But so you're like, oh no, you're being self-pitying there, stop self-pity, and it's just like, no, I'm not, I don't really actually believe that.
I mean,
you know, it's like,
yeah, I mean, self-deprecating humor, okay, yeah. You guys do put yourselves down a lot. Tear
ourselves apart, yeah.
Yeah, we don't really do that in America. We don't believe in that.
It's here. Like, it's much better to be overconfident about something and say, yes, I can do this, and I'm the best person for this.
We're all about pumping ourselves up.
And it's like, you're pumping ourselves up even if you can't do it, you know?
But the sarcasm thing, I do not agree with. It's just like... Yeah, you're sarcastic. Okay, we get it.
Sarcastic.
Like, sarcasm exists everywhere. It was me being sarcastic at the start of this podcast. Now,
yes, it was. You see, and I didn't take it personally.
But self-deprecating humor. Yeah, sure. You guys do that a lot. Yeah, you're great at that.
That's all you have to say. No, speaking about that, you know, oh, it was just a joke. Comedy. I think we do comedy pretty well.
Yeah.
Brits do comedy very well. And, you know, that's kind of like been validated by the US by how many shows that you've remade.
Yeah.
And I was surprised when I first came over here at how many shows that were just kind of like, I was like, yeah, I've seen this before, you know?
Oh, yeah.
This is just a remake of an old British show.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think that prompted an early podcast that we did.
Yeah.
Where we talked about all the American shows that had been remade.
Remade, yeah.
Or British shows that have been remade in America, rather.
And there's stuff that just doesn't translate over here. There's stuff that has, you know, because there's stuff that's, like, arguably better than the original, like maybe The Office. You know, there's people over here who think, oh, The Office USA...
That just depends on who you are, I guess.
It depends on who you are, I guess, yeah. Because, I mean, the original Office with Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant only lasted 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And a Christmas special, and that was about it. And then they spun it off over here, and the first season was kind of panned, and then but the rest of them, I think there was like, what was it, like 8 seasons, 9,
The first
10?
season was basically a ripoff of the British Office.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they ran out of episodes.
Well, they ran out of episodes to rip off, so they had to come up with their own kind of like writing, you know, and apparently that made it into like, you know, it made it into a show.
What's so funny is I'm sure I've seen somewhere some British person going, oh, I didn't know The Office was a British show. I didn't know it started as a British show.
Maybe it didn't. Yeah, maybe
because there's so many more American episodes.
There's so many more American episodes. It's trumpeted. It's just keeps going. So, you know, like you're a British person who never watched the first.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's finished.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of it.
Yeah, it's been finished for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, that got huge, you know.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, it like exploded, and it was like, you know, and so people forgot about the original UK one, you know, and people just assume like, oh, the original UK one didn't do so well because it only lasted 2 seasons and it was cancelled.
No, I think,
and it's like British shows, they have short runs, you know.
No, I think what makes British comedy like better than American comedy is just that there's more original ideas for some reason, it seems like.
Well, again, it's more kind of like keeping it real.
Well, you and I talk a lot about, I don't know if we've ever said it on the podcast. I mean, who knows? We're 300 plus episodes.
Yeah, we're 316, I think, in. Now, this is the 316th.
But So I don't know if we've ever said it on here. Anyway, we've talked about in person though, like how much of American sitcoms are like family oriented or family
They're
related.
kind of, you know, like
they revolve around
Everybody
their
Loves
family.
Raymond, you know,
well,
everything, you know, like that kind
that's
of.
the only one you can think of.
That's the only one I can like think of off the top of my head.
Full House, Roseanne.
Full House. Well, I mean, that was kind of like, was that a sitcom? That was more like a kid show, wasn't it?
It was a sitcom. I mean, it came on at prime time.
Oh, well, okay.
It was a kid. It was for kids, really, but yeah. You had like 8 is Enough, My Two Dads, but then you go all the way back to like Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver, and
it was all very kind of like, and it's all kind of been that this is like safe situation comedy, you know, like, oh, Bud has a problem with his bike, you know, and we're gonna get into like scrapes trying to fix it, you know. And that's the end of the story, you know?
You know what? I mean, this is turning into a completely different kind of conversation, but I think it's something like, and you can sort of see it in our politics right now.
Politics!
For some reason, we're like trapped in the 1950s in this country.
Well, and you could say that about the UK too. I mean, it's the same kind of thing in the UK.
I don't think so. Not in the same way. I mean,
I don't know.
We're very much like, oh, let's make our shows about families and these
family-oriented
crazy situations
sitcoms
that they get into as a family, and there's got to be some resolution at the end that's very humorous, but also teaches a lesson.
Yeah,
and that's a very like 1950s kind of format. Like
it's and I mean that's what the networks are trying to do.
There's not so much of that anymore, though. I guess
not,
if we're being honest, and I think that only has to do with streaming services.
Like for example, Steptoe and Son, which was remade over here as Sanford and Son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that was a big huge hit. That was kind of like in terms of like The Office and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
There was Till Death Us Do Part,
mm-hmm.
which was remade as All in the Family. Archie Bunker.
I can't remember which ones were remade as what, but
yeah,
you
and I mean it's like that kind of like, you know, that kind of like pushing the envelope on comedy and just, you know, just kind of like keeping it real because, you know, like for example, This Country.
Mm-hmm.
We watched, which is they've made a remake called Welcome to Flatch on Fox.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but the difference is there, you know, it's like they've got to have like an attractive woman in it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's got to be some kind of like romance option, you know, there, where it's kind of like, will they, won't they, or whatever, you know, where that wasn't in This Country. And it's like that, it's just a sitcom, it's not funny then, you know, it's just kind of like, it's becoming like a soap opera. Yeah. You know? Oh, we don't want...
I think
we don't want that over here because we need attractive women and men trying to chase them all the time.
I mean,
you know?
The attractiveness is just Hollywood, isn't it? But I think the will they, won't they, and needing that sort of like a subplot is just because they need something that can extend it indefinitely. You know what I mean?
They need an overreaching arc,
Because shows run for so long over here.
Yeah, because with 6 episodes, you can write a 6-episode thing, which is like, I don't know, half an hour to 45 minutes, you know, like, and it's done. And it's like 2 series, and it's like, okay, we're not going to write any more. Yeah. You know, and that's it, you know, and that's short and sweet.
I mean, funnily enough, there wasn't really like...
Only Fools and Horses had a lot of they actually managed to run to about 7 series, I think, but that was because it was massively popular, and it's also something that cannot be translated over here.
If you look at a show like Seinfeld, I mean, they didn't really have the will they, won't they aspect. You could say Jerry and Elaine, but not really. I mean, they were mostly just friends.
They were mostly just friends, yeah.
I think it was sort of a joke, really, the episode where they like considered getting back together.
It was a joke. Yeah, I mean, it was that episode's plot. Yeah, and that's it, you know.
Yeah. Yes. But really, that's kind of, I mean, we're getting better about it.
Like the In-Betweeners, for example.
I never saw the American
version, but it was terrible. Because
Yeah.
it was just a word-for-word rip-off of the original. And it's like, that doesn't work when people have seen it.
Yeah.
With like in the 70s.
Was it a word-for-word rip-off?
I think it was, yeah.
Oh,
I think it was like the plots and everything were just like taken out of the series, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you know, because it was just cheaply made, someone, you know, just doctor it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But with like, nowadays, it's like they don't need to remake stuff, but they still do.
Yeah, well, they remade Ghosts.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
I'll give, you know, there was like,
They
there's
did
a
that
format.
quite successfully, yeah.
Well, I think they did. Anyway, it remains to be seen whether...
I think it got renewed for another season.
Yeah.
I mean, let us know if you guys watch Ghosts on
CBS, yeah.
Or I guess Paramount Plus.
And the original British show is on the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made by the same team, or they have an executive production.
But yeah, like with Netflix now, I mean, this is becoming a podcast just about television, but with Netflix,
we're filling
now,
the time.
You can see all the British shows.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of.
The British shows, like,
and it's kind of like they justify remaking. It's like, oh well, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
people aren't going to understand that culture.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, they could watch the show and learn it. You know, it's like it's not that hard. And if they don't care for it, then they can watch something else. You know,
yeah.
But it's like just remaking it just because, oh, we don't say chips over here to mean French fries, you know.
You mentioned Only Fools and Horses earlier, and I just don't think that ever could have translated over here.
No,
just
I mean,
because of the situation.
They tried to.
The situation and the language, I mean, obviously. Because
the slang.
They use so much slang. And then the situation, like if you translated it into America, maybe like a certain area of the country might be able to relate. Like,
yeah,
but maybe not. Like, I don't think it would have been relatable enough for wide enough audience.
I think the problem lies in that America back then and maybe even now doesn't really root for an underdog. They root for someone who is successful already and is doing successful things, and they're just like, yeah, that's what I want to see. I mean. Know. Maybe it's changing. I don't know. But back then, it was like, in Britain, it was like, oh, Dell and his family, they were poor. They lived in a council estate. They were ducking and diving, wheeling and dealing. You know, and it was kind of like getting themselves into situations, and the British probably just loved that, you know.
Yeah.
It was like, and, you know, he's become a thing. It's like, oh, he's proper Dell boy.
I think that was a reason why it was like sort of a surprise that a show like Roseanne did well, because I guess you're right. Like, America's more aspirational. Like, they want to see on TV.
Oh, that's what the media want
to aspire. Yeah.
Oh, that's what the media want everyone to do.
Yeah, or that's what they think about us.
Because it's like, at the end of the day, the people running the media and the corporations are rich already, so they want people to be like, no, we don't want to look at the poor people. We don't want to look at the working class. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore them.
Yeah.
They never amount to anything. We need successful people.
Because you don't really have
the lawyer or the doctor or the CEO of the multinational conglomerate, you know.
Because you don't really have like the Real Housewives of Round Rock, do you? You know, where it's just like
people want to see rich people.
Lower to middle class wives, you know, and their husbands really work and they have a bunch of kids that they have to support. You know, you only have like Real Housewives of New York City, where it's all these freaking rich women who do nothing,
who live in Manhattan,
you know?
In titles, and all that kind of stuff.
But I think something like Roseanne, or even like, I mean, it's terrible to kind of say like Jersey Shore, to use Jersey Shore as an example, but the popularity of those kind of shows, I think, tells that people do want to see.
But it's like people they quickly just go, oh yeah, we'll do that, and we'll make that for a certain type of demographic.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, there's very much like a pick and choose kind of mentality in the media over here. It's like, oh, okay, we'll decide what the American public want to see.
Yeah.
Or are exposed to, you know? Whereas in Britain, it's kind of like, I want to make a show about gay people or transgender people. It's like, okay, let's do that, you know. And that's happening over here now, but it's like, oh, we'll just put it on Netflix.
And when I say Roseanne, you guys, I mean pre them winning the lottery.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like the early seasons when she's working in a factory.
See, that's where it got crazy, when they started having money.
Yeah. Know? I mean, even just after the first few seasons, they started to not focus quite as much on how like lower middle class they were. You know what I mean? Anyway, we gotta move on.
Move on. I mean,
we could make so many podcasts
talking about comedy and stuff. Yeah.
About this episode.
About this
topic, I meant.
That was comedy. But another thing the Brits are great at is period drama. You don't ever see that over here. More television.
More television talk.
Period
this is
dramas.
another thing we can
Paul
talk
Dark and Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
You know, enough said. Is there
Peaky
another
Blinders.
One? Peaky Blinders. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just don't do it for some reason. I really do not understand.
I mean, The Gilded Age is coming on HBO, and that's pretty. That's
bad,
okay. Yeah. And I mean, you had like Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
Oh, there was another one recently too.
Yeah. I mean, there have been some.
Yeah, there's.
I mean, technically, do we want to say Outlander is British or American? I mean, I know it's all British cast, but it's written by an American.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So and then you know the current seasons they're actually in America.
But
now.
Again, like I think we have talked in this podcast about before. We have history over here. Like we could do period dramas that would be interesting.
That are not just the Revolutionary War or the Civil War,
but
even
that was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's just kind of like there's a lot of history. I mean, you know, whereas like your period dramas seem to be just westerns all the time. You know, it's like the westerns. Yeah, that's because that's all that happened.
Yeah.
You know
what? Like they started a couple of period dramas that I was quite excited about, actually. Set in the 60s.
Yeah.
And that's a period.
That's a period now.
Yeah. And, you know, few episodes or a season or two or whatever, and they were canceled. Like, you had American Dreams.
Yeah.
And
Pan Am.
And it seems like there was another one. I don't know. But, you know, they seem like they're going to be interesting topics. It's an interesting period. There was a lot going on, you know? And just, I don't know if they don't give the public time to see if they're really into it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like they don't give enough time before they're just like, okay, cancel it. It's not making enough money or it's not getting the ratings. We need instant hits right here, you know?
Yeah.
It's like first episode, we need all the country to be watching it.
Agent Carter, I mean, I know that was sort of like a
Marvel
thing, but it was a period.
Yeah.
And that was good. And again, canceled. I don't know what it is. I don't know if America doesn't want to remember our past.
Well, you know, again, it's like, it's a case of just remembering, like, the most exciting bits, which were the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. Yeah. And then that's it.
They always say, like, about America that we look to the future, but in my experience, just with people I know, and also, like, seeing things like TikTok, like, there are so many people in this country, I think maybe more so than in Europe and Britain and stuff, who are kind of obsessed with the past, researching their family's genealogy. They like to go thrifting for, like, clothes from, you know, anywhere from the 20s to the 70s. They like antiques in their houses and stuff. Whereas you go to Europe or Britain or, you know, anywhere overseas, it's all very modern. Like, the interior designs, like, people don't really care about their family history.
Modern. Yeah, people are just like, I don't care about my family.
They're like,
history.
I have no idea who my, you know, great grandfather was.
What my heritage is. I don't care.
Yeah. You know? So you would think that period dramas would do quite well over here, but
I mean, you know, that's been said. You know, like Paul Dark. Paul Dark didn't really do too much over here.
Not as big as Downton Abbey.
As Downton Abbey did, but I think that was because it just hit on
I think
that
celebrities
classic
for some reason got
on
into Downton Abbey, and I said Downton.
Downton.
Like
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey. I think celebrities got on board with that and were promoting it, and then their fans were like, "Oh, we'll check it. They like it, so we'll check it out." I mean, that
that happens.
That's a thing. So
that's a thing. Anyway, the next one
yeah
is apologizing. And yes, saying sorry for everything, really, just kind of like, it's kind of like we're in the way, or, like someone bumps into us and we say sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry about that,
someone bumps into you and
yeah,
you say
yeah,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Just to like, and it's like that's something that's weird people out over here, but it's like that's something we're very good at, saying sorry.
I mean, I don't know. I can't really comment too much on this because I haven't really. I know that British people say that that's a thing all the time, but I haven't.
It's like a social politeness thing.
Much.
Yeah, it's like, oh, sorry. Oh, you okay?
And I think trying to say that to women, I think women, just kind of anywhere, are often known for apologizing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I say it. I find myself saying it. Someone bumps into me. Oh, sorry. You okay?
Mm-hmm. I do all the time.
So sorry. Are you okay?
And it's just like I don't know. I don't know if it's more of a thing in Britain. Maybe.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's just like oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
I haven't done enough.
Haven't done enough research. In Britain. This is your next trip.
I don't have any intel on this. On this claim.
And another thing is referring to everyone as mate.
You're all right, great mate. At that, are you?
Yeah, we're great at that. That's one of our best things that we do.
Yeah.
It's like some people go overboard with it. They call everyone mate. It's
they say mate every 5 seconds.
Mate, you're all right, mate.
Yeah. Mate. Oh, mate.
Oh, mate. I'm just going to go down here, mate.
Is it just a habit? What
Shoot
is it?
their face off, mate. It's just like, mate. It's like,
shoot their face off was a Peaky Blinders reference, not just
shoot
him randomly saying it.
Shoot their face off, mate. And I'm just going to go down the shops and get some
I mean, it's just
tea,
habit,
mate.
I guess, right?
It's habit, yeah. It's mate. All the time.
It's in place of saying someone's name.
Yeah, right, mate.
Oh, Dominic. I don't know, Dominic. Dominic. I'm gonna go over here, Dominic.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Mate.
Okay.
It is really just like mate all the time. You hear someone talking about mate. Mate.
Mm.
My mate. He's a mate. Okay, mate.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Slang, though.
Yeah.
Slang is something that we have a lot of words for a lot of things.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that's just not just
more
Cockney rhyming slang. It's like in Liverpool. It's like, Yeah, no, it seems like you could get through a whole sentence just using slang.
Yeah.
To describe something, which is why everyone's confused over here. It's like, what was that? Not really. Just kind of like, it's like, I don't know, just kind of like, kushti.
Yeah.
To mean good, like, and,
yeah, what was I was watching something recently, and the guy was like, kushti,
and you were like, oh, I haven't heard that one,
Well, not since Only Fools
and Horses. Yeah, I mean, Only Fools and Horses, they used a lot of slang in that, and Del Boy would make up his own.
I was gonna say, yeah, they made up their own, didn't they?
Yeah,
and it became then.
Well, kushti, I think, was lovely jubbly. That was kind of like a thing, everybody says lovely jubbly now,
Yeah.
And everybody says, you plonker, but I think that was an old kind of thing, But like slang words for things, my mind's gone completely blank now on something.
We had
bish bash bosh.
We had on the schedule
Bob's your uncle.
Like quiz me on some slang. I don't know what happened to that. Did we do it?
Oh, maybe I think we might have done it. If we haven't, we'll do it again. Because we would just repeat ourselves.
There's a lot of modern slang, isn't there, that you don't even know?
Peng. That's one.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
There's a lot of, I don't remember.
Pop quiz, peng. Yeah. No, because, like, peng, it's kind of coming in from the multicultural aspect. So, it's peng, innit?
Yeah.
He's peng. Like, and it's like, if Stranger Things was British.
Oh, yeah.
A bit odd, innit? Yeah. Bit bloody strange, that, mate.
Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, you guys do use a lot of slang. I mean, I could argue that we have slang too.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously,
But I think that most people, because I think slang is usually more associated with kids, young people over here.
Yes.
Whereas in Britain,
everybody uses it.
I mean, there's obviously like some slang that has lasted for, generations.
Some slang just dies out, yeah.
Well, some slang dies out. We were quizzing my niece the other night, a couple weeks ago, on like 90s slang. My brother and I were doing it. I don't know where you were. We were quizzing her on like things that were popular to say in the 90s.
I thought it was just kind of like, what's this or what's that?
No, well, we did that, but then we were doing like words also, like words that we used in the 90s because she's 12 or whatever. And so my brother and I have seen, we've both seen on TikTok people doing this with kids just to see what they think something means, and that was quite funny. But anyway, there's slang words that have become part of speech, so much so that they're not necessarily even considered a slang word now.
Yeah.
Because people have been saying it since the 50s. Or,
yeah. Yeah.
Why I'm relating everything back to the 50s? I don't know.
Because that's when time began.
Yeah, seems like it in this country anyway. But in Britain, there's also now computer slang, like words that come up on the computer, and so it's not just things that are said in Britain. People might be saying
it's
it
internet
over
language,
too.
as they call it,
Or someone online has a bunch of British people that they follow on Instagram or on wherever, Twitter or something, and they see them saying this, and they've worked out what it means, and they start saying it, and then it becomes a thing over here as well. I think that's really interesting. I mean, it's an interesting time in life that we're living in.
Yeah, I mean, in the technological age. I mean, what is this, the technological age?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's like, like they had the Bronze Age and the Stone Age and the, the Middle Age. The Industrial Age. What is this? This is the technological age?
Yeah. The Age of Empires.
The Age of Empires, yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll have to quiz me on just some more slang. I know we definitely have.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
The past, but
I'll look some up and we'll do it.
We had some on the schedule, like for semi-recently, but I think we're doing it. So anyway, next.
Anyway, the final one is fish and chips. Nobody in the world does fish and chips like Britain.
I'm gonna argue with this one.
Why are you gonna argue with it?
I don't know, because I mean, you can get a good piece of fish and some good French fries anywhere, I think.
No. You can't. Nobody does it like they do in Britain because it's a specific way. It's an art form. You batter the fish in that batter, and you cut those chips kind of chunky, and you fry them, and they come out the fryer and they're just golden and delicious, and salt and vinegar, and delicious.
I remember when you took me to get some, like the first time or something, and I remember you like looking at me. Is it good? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think of it? I was just like, yeah, it's good. It's fish and it's French fries.
See, that you talking about me being unimpressed. When I came over here, you were not impressed by that godlike genius award. I wasn't
impressed, but it was just like, yeah, it's good.
Of culinary.
Because you threw a fit when we got the fish and chips in London. Because
I didn't throw a fit. I don't do that, everybody. Don't listen to her.
With coleslaw.
No, it wasn't that. I had concerns. I had concerns about...
No, he was about to throw it away, you guys. I mean, I was...
No, it was...
I was like, oh my god, no.
It was like a tiny battered... It was tiny
I
bread.
ate it and it was fine.
It was a tiny breadcrumb of a fish.
It tasted.
It wasn't battered. It was breadcrumbed. And I'm like, I could have bought this at the store. And the fries were McDonald's fries, and they were yellow and pale. They were terrible. Like. And yeah, they put coleslaw with it. I was like, where's this guy living? Where does he think he's living? I said, I'll get some fish and chips. And I was like, wait a minute, there's no frying range here. And then I kind of realized, I'd made a mistake. Because then he just kind of went, and gave it to me. And I was like, where did you get that from? It's like you didn't, because I was like, I wanted fish and chips. I can't remember what you got.
If you guys could only see me rolling my eyes right now.
He just bagged it up and put it. And I was like, where did you get that from? Did you just put that in the microwave? And he probably did.
It wasn't microwaved. I would have been able to.
I was like, it's like, I can't eat that. That is terrible.
You guys.
I was Gordon Ramsay. I was swearing.
Do you see what I'm living with here? I will say, though, when we went to Liverpool and I ordered the large fish and chips.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea what a large was going to be like, obviously.
I remember I didn't know where she was going either. She was just kind of walking away, and I was just like, where are you going? And you pulled out this £2 coin, I remember, and you had it, and you were like Paddington, just walking away. I was just like, what are you doing with that £2 coin? Where are you going with that? And you just walked into the fish and shop, and I said, it's like, yes, I'm going to get fish and chips.
With my £2 coin, like I'm living in the 1950s.
Yeah, it was like £1.50 for it, and you were like, what? £2 coin. Yeah, it was cheap back then.
God.
It was like £1.50 for the large and chips. And I was like, okay, it's like, I'm not really that hungry.
You didn't tell me till after I'd ordered. And they brought out a piece of freaking fish. You guys, the size of the length of my arm, probably from the tip of my fingers to my elbow.
Yes.
Like, it was the most giant piece of fish I've ever seen. And then he's like, I'm not really hungry. I'm not going to have some. I was like, oh my God. It was like that huge piece of fish and then like fries all along the side to match. And I was just like, well, I mean, I'm going to be able to eat like a fifth of this piece of fish.
You didn't even eat, I remember you just ate a couple of fries, as you would call them, fries, a couple of chips. You were like, and then you just like,
It was so like, and it's so just like, you guys, there's so much breading on that stuff. It's good.
It's good. It's the best thing. It's very stodgy. Yeah. It's very hearty.
It's good, but you don't need a large. I'm just telling you right now.
Because we got large in Gibraltar.
Yeah.
And that was yeah. And I mean, I was hungry, but I was just like, oh, it's too. It was like. Yeah. I was almost. We got that with my dad, and it was just. Whew.
And then you guys had bread and butter, and he had the mushy peas.
Bread and butter, and you make a chip buddy with it. Yeah, that's another thing she doesn't like, chip buddies.
No, why do I need to put everything in bread?
Yes, you do.
All right, this is an entirely different conversation.
This will be the next...
This is an entirely different argument.
The next episode of the podcast will be Erica going, why do I need to put everything in bread?
I'm so sorry, you guys. You guys had no idea that tuning into this podcast, you were going to just hear me and Dominic argue the entire time.
Why do I need to put everything in bread?
Yes. Well, I have to put my beans on the bread. I have to put my chips in a bread. It's like, no. Leave the bread alone. I don't need the bread.
Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in.
As always, we appreciate you guys' support so much. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY, as Dominic so kindly reminded us all earlier in the podcast. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We also have a TikTok account, which we intend to start using at some point. So if you want to follow us over there and get a jump start,
TikTok,
go ahead. I think all we have at the moment is videos of a baby owl that we found.
Of a little baby owl, which we don't know what's happened to.
Yeah, and Dominic singing Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me that it didn't happen.
We will talk to you all next time.
Next time.
Bye.
We will. Goodbye.